Okay, so remember that huge IT outage back in July?
Oh, yeah, the one that caused chaos everywhere.
Well, get this. The company that caused it is actually doing better than ever.
Really?
CrowdStrike, the cybersecurity giant, their stock is up 30% this year.
Huh, interesting.
And guess what? Their Q3 2025 earnings report drops on November 26th.
That's why interesting to see.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into how CrowdStrike not only survived that outage, but thrived.
Right, because how does a company cause a global meltdown and come out stronger?
Exactly. And what does history tell us about what might happen to their stock after they release their earnings?
I'm all ears.
It seems crazy, right? CrowdStrike caused airlines to be grounded, surgeries to be postponed,
Yeah, I remember. It felt like the world stopped for a bit.
and yet their stock is way up.
Kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah.
That outage showed just how deeply CrowdStrike's tech is woven into everything.
It's kind of scary how much we depend on their systems.
Totally. It's like they have their fingers on the pulse of the digital world.
And the thing is, it wasn't a small glitch. This outage was massive.
Oh, yeah, it was a big deal.
But here's the kicker. CrowdStrike issued a fix within an hour.
An hour. Wow. Talk about quick thinking.
That speed is incredible. It really shows their technical skills.
Absolutely. Their response was impressive. A lot of it boils down to how they approach things. They've got this platform called Falcon.
Falcon, right.
It's AI-powered with 28 different modules that you can customize.
So it's not like a one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly. It's like cybersecurity building blocks. Companies can tailor it to their specific needs.
That's got to be a huge selling point.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just talk. CrowdStrike backs it up with results. Over the past 4 quarters, they've consistently beaten what analysts thought they'd earn.
Really? Even the quarter with the outage?
Even then, they just keep exceeding expectations.
So this wasn't just a lucky break. They're consistently resilient.
Exactly. Think
Yeah.
about it. That outage happened right at the end of Q2.
When everyone's trying to close deals.
Exactly. Yet they still managed 32% revenue growth and added over $200 million in new ARR.
Hold on, what's ARR again?
Annual recurring revenue. Basically, it's the money they can count on getting each year from subscriptions.
Ah, right. Okay. So we've got a company that's in demand, they're resilient, and they've got this incredible track record of growth. You mentioned their stock's up, but what does history tell us about how their stock performs after they release earnings reports?
Well, if we look back at the last 5 quarters, their share price has gone up every single time in the month after an earnings report.
Wow, every time.
Yep, increases between 6% and 26%.
That's a pretty strong trend. But this time around, there's a new wrinkle. They're giving compensation to customers who were hurt by the July outage.
Right, those customer commitment packages. I wonder how that'll affect things.
Won't that cut into their profits and scare off investors?
It's a valid concern. They're predicting a $30 million hit to their revenue in Q3 because of those packages.
Ouch, that's gotta hurt. But maybe it's better than losing tons of angry customers.
Yeah, probably a good long-term strategy. This is where it's important to remember that the best investors don't just focus on the short term.
Right. They see the big picture.
Exactly. Even if CrowdStrike's stock dips a bit after Q3, they've got a strong track record, they're innovative, and they're leaders in their field. Those are all good signs for the long term.
So you're saying don't panic if their stock drops a bit after Q3.
Right. Look at their long-term potential, their ability to bounce back.
Got it. Okay, so this upcoming earnings report on November 26th, what should we be looking for? What are the key things to pay attention to?
Well, first off, we've got to see how accurate their revenue predictions are. Did they guess right about the impact of those commitment packages?
Right. Did they overestimate or underestimate the cost?
Exactly. That'll tell us how well they're handling the fallout from the outage.
So revenue projections, check. What else?
Keep an eye on their new ARR for the quarter. Remember, that's the steady flow of cash coming in from subscriptions.
Right, their lifeblood.
It tells us if they're still attracting new business and locking in future revenue, we want to see solid growth there.
Got it. New ARR. Anything else?
Yeah, definitely watch their customer growth numbers. How many new clients did they snag in Q3? What's the average size of those deals?
So basically, are they still the hot new thing, attracting new business?
Exactly. Those numbers paint a picture of their momentum.
Okay, so revenue, new ARR, and customer growth. It's all about the numbers, huh?
Numbers are important, no doubt. But don't forget the qualitative stuff, too. Pay attention to what they say about their outlook for the future.
Like, how confident are they?
Exactly. Are they confident they can keep growing despite the July hiccup? That'll give us a sense of their overall strategy.
So read between the lines a bit.
Exactly. It's not just what they say, but how they say it.
You know, the thing that really strikes me about all of this is that it's not just about money.
Oh, right. I know what you mean.
This outage messed with people's lives big time. Canceled flights, delayed surgeries, businesses shutting down.
Yeah, it had a real human impact.
It makes you think about the cost of these tech failures. The cost beyond just dollars and cents.
Absolutely. It raises questions about how we balance innovation with stability and reliability.
And what responsibility companies like CrowdStrike have to prevent these kinds of disruptions.
Definitely something to think about.
Yeah, big questions. But before we go down that road, I think it's important to really understand CrowdStrike's business model.
You're right.
To really grasp their resilience and what they might do in the future, we need to understand how they actually work.
Yeah, let's break it down.
So what exactly does CrowdStrike offer, and why is everyone so crazy about it? What makes them different from all the other cybersecurity companies out there?
At their core, they focus on something called endpoint security.
Endpoint security.
It's basically about protecting all those devices that connect to a network. Laptops, smartphones, servers, you name it.
Okay, so they're like the guardians of all our digital entry points. Makes sense.
Exactly. But what makes them stand out is how they do it.
So what's their special sauce?
Traditionally, endpoint security relied on software installed on each individual device.
Right, I've seen those clunky programs.
Exactly. It gets messy, hard to manage, slow to react to new threats. CrowdStrike changes all that with their cloud-based platform, Falcon.
Ah, the cloud. Everyone's talking about the cloud these days.
Right. CrowdStrike was ahead of the curve there. But how does that give them an edge? Think of it like this.
Okay.
Their software lives in the cloud, gathering data from all their customers, analyzing it instantly to identify and stop threats before they can even spread.
Wow, so they're stopping them before they start.
It's like having a global team of cybersecurity experts constantly on patrol, learning from every attack and sharing that knowledge across the entire network.
Sounds impressive.
It is. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room. That July outage happened, and it happened on their watch.
Right, we can't just gloss over that. How did it happen, and what are they doing to make sure it never happens again?
Good questions. The culprit was a software update that went wrong and caused a cascade of errors in their system.
A single software update took down the world.
It just shows you how interconnected everything is these days. They fixed it fast, but the damage was done. Even the best systems can have vulnerabilities.
Yeah, no system is perfect. So what are they doing differently now? Have they learned their lesson?
Oh, absolutely. They've seriously beefed up their software testing and quality assurance processes.
To catch problems before they cause an outage.
Exactly. They've also improved how they monitor their systems and respond to incidents. So if something does go wrong, they can react faster and more effectively.
So they're on high alert. But I'm still curious about those customer commitment packages. How do they work? And how much will they affect CrowdStrike's bottom line? Are they going to lose a ton of money because of this?
That's a great question, and it's one we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good. Can't wait to unpack all that.
Okay, so let's unpack these customer commitment packages. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, what are they actually offering these customers who were affected by the outage?
Well, it seems like they've got a few different options on the table.
Like what?
They're offering things like credits that can be used toward future services.
Okay, so like a discount.
Right, exactly. And they're also offering to extend contract terms for some customers.
So they get more time with their current contract.
Yep, that's the idea. And in some cases, they're even giving cash refunds.
Wow, they're really pulling out all the stops.
It seems like they're serious about making things right. But yeah, all of this is going to cost them.
No kidding. $30 million, right?
That's what they're estimating. But remember, this is a one-time hit.
Right, not an ongoing expense.
Exactly. It's not like something that's going to drag down their profits forever.
Okay, that makes sense. But still, $30 million is nothing to sneeze at. How are investors reacting to this?
Well, there's always some nervousness when a company announces a financial hit like this.
Right, that's understandable.
But so far, the market seems to be taking it pretty well. Yeah, CrowdStrike's stock price has been fairly stable since they announced the estimated impact of these packages.
So investors aren't freaking out.
Not yet, anyway. It seems like they still believe in CrowdStrike's long-term potential.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger picture. How does CrowdStrike stack up against the competition in the cybersecurity world?
That's a good question. Overall, they're considered one of the leaders in endpoint security.
So they're at the top of the heap.
Pretty much. They consistently get high praise for their technology and their customer satisfaction.
So they're doing something right. Who are their main rivals?
Some of their biggest competitors include companies like Sentinel, Microsoft, and McAfee.
This is some pretty big names in the game.
Oh, yeah. It's a competitive market.
What sets CrowdStrike apart from the pack? What makes them special?
Well, a few things. First off, their cloud-native platform is a game changer.
We talked about that a bit earlier, right?
Right. It's faster, more scalable, and more effective than those old on-premises solutions.
So the cloud is where it's at.
It seems like it. And CrowdStrike was one of the first to really embrace that. Another thing that makes them stand out is their use of AI.
Oh, right, their AI-powered approach.
Exactly. Their algorithms are constantly learning and improving, making them one of the most sophisticated and effective security solutions out there.
So they're always one step ahead.
They're trying to be, that's for sure. But the thing about cybersecurity is that the bad guys are always coming up with new tricks.
Right, it's a constant arms race.
Exactly. So how does CrowdStrike stay ahead of the curve? How do they prepare for what's next?
Yeah, that's a good question. It must be like trying to predict the future.
In a way, it is. CrowdStrike invests heavily in research and development.
To stay ahead of the game.
Yep. They have a whole team dedicated to hunting down and analyzing emerging threats.
Wow, so they're proactively looking for trouble.
And they're constantly updating their platform to address new vulnerabilities.
So it's like a never-ending battle.
Pretty much. They're always building new defenses to counter the latest tactics from cybercriminals. And it's not just about blocking known threats. They're using AI to try and predict future attacks.
Pretty cool.
It is. But let's be real, no system is perfect. What if a customer using CrowdStrike still gets hacked?
Right, what happens then? Do they just wash their hands of it?
Not at all. They've got a dedicated incident response team that works closely with customers to investigate breaches, contain the damage, and get things back up and running.
So they don't just leave customers hanging?
Nope. They're there to help. They also provide ongoing support to help customers strengthen their security and prevent future incidents.
That's good to hear. So they're not just selling a product, they're providing a whole service.
Okay, so we've talked about their resilience, their competitive edge, their commitment to innovation. But at the end of the day, is CrowdStrike a good investment?
That's the big question, isn't it? And like with any investment, there are risks and rewards to think about.
Okay, so what are the risks? What could go wrong? Well, there's always the possibility of future outages or security breaches.
Right, we saw that with the July outage.
Exactly. Even the most sophisticated systems can be vulnerable. And while CrowdStrike has taken steps to prevent another major outage, there's no guarantee it won't happen again.
So outages and breaches are a risk, however small. What about the potential rewards? What makes CrowdStrike an attractive investment?
Well, there are a few things working in their favor. First, they're operating in a market that's absolutely booming.
Cybersecurity.
Exactly. Cybersecurity spending is going up everywhere, and that trend isn't slowing down.
So they're in the right place at the right time?
For sure. As more businesses and organizations move their operations online, the need for strong security solutions like CrowdStrike's is only going to increase.
So they're riding a wave of demand? What else is going for them?
They also have a killer track record of financial performance. They've been consistently growing their revenue and earnings at a very impressive rate.
And even exceeding expectations, despite the July outage.
Right. That says something about their ability to adapt and overcome challenges. And there's one more thing.
What's that?
They have a really strong leadership team with a clear vision for the future. CrowdStrike CEO, George Kurtz, is a well-respected expert in cybersecurity.
So they've got a good captain at the helm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he's surrounded by a talented team of executives. They've shown they can execute their strategy and handle the complexities of this market.
So we've got a booming market, a proven track record, and a strong leadership team. It sounds like a pretty compelling case for investment.
It does. But what about the competition? Can CrowdStrike stay on top with companies like Sentinel and Microsoft breathing down their necks?
Yeah, that's a good point. The competition is fierce.
It is. The cybersecurity market is incredibly competitive. CrowdStrike is constantly facing pressure from both big players and hungry startups. But they've consistently shown they can outmaneuver the competition.
So how do they do it? What's their secret weapon?
I think their secret sauce is a mix of a few things.
Like what?
Top-notch technology, strong relationships with their customers, and a relentless focus on innovation. They're always pushing the boundaries of what's possible in cybersecurity, and they're completely dedicated to giving their customers the best possible protection.
So they're not just resting on their laurels, they're always trying to improve. Okay, let's get practical for a second. If someone is thinking about investing in CrowdStrike, What are the key things they should be considering?
That's a great question. Whenever you're thinking about investing, you need to do your research and weigh the potential risks and rewards.
Right, no investment is a sure thing.
Exactly. So for CrowdStrike, here are a few things to keep in mind. First, think about your investment timeline.
Okay, how long am I planning to hold on to this stock?
Exactly. Are you looking for a quick win or a long-term investment?
Right, two very different strategies.
If you're hoping to get rich quick, CrowdStrike might not be the best bet. Their stock price can be volatile, and it's affected by the overall market ups and downs.
Playing the short game in the stock market is always risky. What about a longer-term perspective?
If you're in it for the long haul, CrowdStrike has a lot to offer. They're a well-run company with a history of growth and innovation, and as we discussed, they're in a rapidly growing market with a bright future.
So the long-term outlook is good.
It seems that way. But as with any long-term investment, it's important to keep an eye on their progress and be prepared for bumps along the way.
So my investment timeline is a key factor. What else should I be thinking about?
Think about your risk tolerance. CrowdStrike is a high-growth company, but that means there's more risk than with a slower-growing, more established company.
Right, higher risk, higher potential reward.
Exactly. Their stock can be a bit of a roller coaster, and they're competing against some of the biggest names in tech. If you're not comfortable with the ups and downs, CrowdStrike might not be the right investment for you.
Makes sense. Anything else?
The last thing, and this is important, don't just take our word for it. Do your own research. Read their financial reports, listen to their earnings calls, and stay up to date on industry news. The more you know, the better decisions you can make.
Right, knowledge is power. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Can you give us a quick recap of the key takeaways?
Sure. We've explored CrowdStrike's journey from a small startup to a cybersecurity powerhouse. We've looked at their business model, their competitors, and their financial performance. And we've weighed the risks and rewards of investing in this dynamic and innovative company.
It's been a fascinating deep dive. But before we wrap up, I can't stop thinking about that global IT outage back in July.
The one that brought the world to a standstill.
Exactly. What are the bigger implications of that event? What did we learn from it?
That's a great question. The July outage was a wake-up call for everyone, businesses and governments alike. It showed us just how fragile our interconnected world is.
And how much we rely on technology that we don't even think about.
Right. We need to create more robust and resilient systems.
Systems that can withstand these kinds of shocks.
Exactly. And that requires a multifaceted approach. On a technical level, we need to invest in more sophisticated security solutions, like the ones CrowdStrike offers, the kind that can detect and stop threats in real time. But technology alone isn't enough.
Right, we need humans in the loop too.
Exactly. We need to educate people about cybersecurity best practices, things like creating strong passwords and being careful about phishing scams. And we need to build a culture of cybersecurity awareness across all organizations.
So it's about creating a human firewall to work alongside the technological defenses. But what about the role of the government? Shouldn't they be doing more to protect us from these types of threats?
Absolutely. Governments have a crucial role to play in cybersecurity. They need to invest in research and development, create clear rules and standards, and encourage cooperation between the public and private sectors.
So it's a team effort. Everyone needs to do their part.
Exactly. Because the stakes are incredibly high. We're talking about protecting our critical infrastructure, our economy, our way of life.
It's not just about protecting data anymore. It's about protecting our society.
You got it. Cybersecurity is no longer just an IT issue. It's a national security issue, an economic issue, a societal issue.
It's something we all need to take seriously. But on that sobering note, I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
I agree. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's always more to learn.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about CrowdStrike, their business, and the crazy July outage.
Yeah, that whole thing really shook things up.
Big time. It showed just how fragile our digital world is.
Totally. So where do we go from here? What are the big takeaways?
Yeah, what did we learn?
Right.
And how do we apply those lessons to the future? What can we do to make our digital world more, resilient?
Right. Well, I think that July outage was a real turning point for cybersecurity. It exposed the weaknesses and how everything's connected.
And it showed how urgently we need a whole new approach, right?
Absolutely. We need a more resilient approach, one that can withstand these kinds of massive disruptions.
It's like we've built this amazing digital society, but on a foundation of sand.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We need to reinforce that foundation, make it stronger.
Okay, so how do we do that? Where do we even start?
Well, it's a multi-pronged approach. There's no single solution.
Right. It's got to be a combination of things.
Exactly. On the technical side, we need to invest in smarter, more sophisticated security solutions, like the kind CrowdStrike offers.
The ones that can stop threats in real time
Yep.
before they even spread.
Exactly. But technology alone isn't enough.
Right, right. It's like having a super fancy security system but leaving your doors unlocked.
That's a good analogy. You need both. You need the technology and you need human awareness.
Okay, so what does that look like on the human side?
Education is key. We need to teach people about cybersecurity best practices. Simple things like strong passwords, being aware of phishing scams, keeping software updated.
So it's about basic digital hygiene, basically.
Exactly. We all need to up our game in that department. And it's not just about individuals. We need to create a culture of cybersecurity awareness in every organization.
So it's a top-down approach.
Right. Everyone, from the CEO to the interns, needs to be on board.
So it's like building a human firewall to work alongside the technological defenses. Okay, I'm with you on that. But what about the government? Shouldn't they be doing more to protect us?
Absolutely. Governments have a crucial role to play. They need to invest in research and development, create clear rules and regulations, and encourage cooperation between the public and private sectors.
So it's a collaborative effort.
Exactly. Everyone has a part to play, and the stakes are high. We're talking about protecting our critical infrastructure, our economy, our entire way of life.
It's not just about protecting data anymore, it's about protecting our society.
Exactly. Cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue, it's a national security issue, an economic issue, a societal issue. It affects all of us.
So we need to treat it that way. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. What are your final thoughts? What should our listeners be thinking about as they go about their digital lives?
Well, first, I want to emphasize that we don't need to live in fear. Cybersecurity threats are real, but we can manage those risks. We can stay safe if we're informed and proactive.
I like that. Don't be afraid. Be prepared. What else?
We all have a role to play in creating a safer digital world. Whether it's choosing to support businesses that prioritize cybersecurity, educating ourselves about best practices, or advocating for stronger policies.
So it's about making conscious choices, big and small.
Exactly. We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to fix this. We all have a part to play.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of CrowdStrike and cybersecurity.
Thanks for having me. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and stay curious.